Master! Save yourself!
No way, two can play.
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. For today's video, we're going to be checking out the Transformers Studio Series Deluxe Class Perceptor, RAMHORN, and RATBAT. Based on the original 1986 animated movie, this 3-pack is inspired by the now iconic Decepticon attack on Autobot City, and not only sees the second release of Perceptor, but also the first new entry into core class since its cancellation back in 2024, which I actually don't mind so much. If you were to take a look back at Steeljaw, there is no way that figure should have retailed for the individual price point of roughly around $12. And in the case of Perceptor, whilst the original is still pretty good, there was definitely room for improvement, especially when it came down to the design of his back. So as we bring out the new version and whack up an image of how he originally appeared in the G1 cartoon, visually the figure is looking to be even closer to his animation model. Not only is the colour scheme a marked improvement, but the entire torso is actually completely brand new, meaning that proportionally he is a lot closer to the look in the cartoon. They also massively tightened up the thigh joints, which originally were so loose that they could easily be swayed side to side. And as we spin him around to the back, one of the biggest issues with the first version was how it was completely hollow. But as we again whack up an image of how he appeared in the cartoon, this time he's not only completely filled in, but also accurately detailed, making this Perceptor definitely a step up in comparison to the original. But there are still two things which I also would have liked to have seen changed. The first being the head sculpt. In the scene that this 3-pack is based on, Perceptor is being terrorized by the Decepticons, and so I really do think they could have gone with something slightly more expressive. And the second being the forearms. These are still incredibly hollow, and had they instead taken the engineering from the animated universe Optimus Prime, these definitely could have looked so much better. But with that being said, this Perceptor is still pretty awesome. Recently, with the announcement of the 86 movie Megatron, I've been questioning how Hasbro are ever going to be able to top some of these updates in the future, because as of right now, honestly, this guy looks near perfect. Flying through Perceptor's accessories, you guys may be wondering what exactly have they included to justify the Voyager class price point. Up first is his original G1 blaster, core class RAMHORN, a Micromaster RATBAT, and then finally their accessories. The blaster is exactly the same as the previous version and is still Blast Effect compatible, whereas RAMHORN is a complete brand new figure, and I'm pretty certain would have been released individually alongside maybe a second speaker for blaster had the size class not been discontinued. RATBAT, on the other hand, is just a slight repaint of the original Transformers Siege version, which means that as a cassette he is just way too detailed in comparison to RAMHORN, who I actually think visually is the strongest looking between the two. Both do work though incredibly well, being stored inside Blaster's chest and can be easily ejected, but unfortunately the same cannot be said for Earthrise Soundwave, as they do seem to be just a little too wide for his cassette deck. There is also some compatibility to be had with Perceptor, as their accessories can be used as individual weapons for him to wield. As for the transformations of both, they are super simple. Firstly, take the front feet of RAMHORN and slide them up, then do exactly the same for the back set. Flip to the underside to reveal the head, grab both sides and compress down. Then take his horn and flip this up, slide his accessory into the underside, and complete his transformation by snapping the missiles into the hips. As for RATBAT, take the tips of his wings and fold them down, then take both sides and fold them out, with the feet following closely behind. The neck will then slide down, and this tab on his back will slide up, which is what we will use to attach on his jetpack. And as we firstly whack up an image of how RAMHORN appeared in the G1 cartoon, despite not being completely perfect, I mean bro is legit built like a box, he is still miles better in comparison to Steeljaw. RATBAT, on the other hand, is incredibly close to his original character model, and now with the inclusion of his much needed jetpack, is honestly near perfect. So, as for the question as to whether or not this set is worth that $35 price tag, with Perceptor being a deluxe, RAMHORN a core class, and then finally RATBAT, who originally came as part of a Micromaster 2-pack, surprisingly I do think this is deserving of that Voyager class price point. And if this is the way that Hasbro do plan to release smaller characters in the future, then I actually think that it is a much better idea in comparison to what we did see again from Steeljaw. Diving into this guy's posability, to begin with, the head is packing a super limited ball joint, which can really only look side to side. The shoulders though can kick forward, backwards, and all the way out to the side. The bicep can spin, with the elbows able to bend to 90, although unfortunately this guy is still lacking wrist articulation, but is surprisingly packing a pretty decent waist joint. The hips can kick forwards, backwards, and completely out to the side. The thighs can rotate, with the knees able to bend slightly past 90. Then finally, this guy's even packing a pretty decent ankle joint. But to really see the true power of Perceptor, let's now put him through the pose test. Firing through some robot mode comparisons, we are going to be starting in order from tallest to smallest, with the Studio Series 86 Commander Class Optimus Prime. Now, Perceptor was always one of the largest deluxes, so still packs a pretty decent size. Perceptor's right-hand man, Voyager Class Blaster, the original 2022 Perceptor, which I'm thinking now is slightly more inspired by the look of the original G1 toy in comparison to this guy, but the new torso definitely does make him much bulkier, which personally I do think better matches what we actually saw in the movie. Then finally, the 86 movie Bumblebee, and I find it crazy that a deluxe class in 2025 can either be as big as this guy or as small as this guy. Prepare to open your receptors like Perceptor, as we are about to blast through this guy's transformation. So for the first step, take the fists and slide these into the forearms. We can now take the shoulders, rotate them around, and slide them down. With that complete, the microscope will then slide to the side, giving us access to this back panel so that the head can completely slide inside. We can now snap this back into place, take the shoulder and hinge this up, and do exactly the same for the side with the microscope attached. Once you've reached to this point, we can now take both halves and combine these here directly down the middle. We can now take the shoulders and firstly hinge them up, and then secondly slide them down, allowing for the forearm to attach into the chest. The chest plate will then slide down, with the tips of the feet following closely behind. With that complete, kick the legs forwards, out to the side, and by making use out of this transformation joint, forward again. With the same done for the second side, that is the transformation now fully complete.
I fear the wounds are fatal.
Here is Perceptor now fully transformed into his Microscope Mode, and as we again whack up an image of how he appeared in the original G1 cartoon, he's looking to be incredibly close. Easily one of the biggest improvements this mode has over the first would be the solid chest plates. With the original, it was honestly always a guessing game as to whether or not the plastic would crack, mainly due to the way it transformed, but with this version, it even feels solid. The microscope itself is also articulated, although unfortunately doesn't extend unlike the Titan's Return version. In terms of the back though, I would honestly argue that this new panel looks even better here in comparison to the robot mode, mainly because with the first version, you were always just left with a visible head, which really didn't look the best. But with that being said, the only thing which this new version is lacking over the previous one would be the ability to create his secret hidden tank mode, which was a pretty neat throwback to the original G1 toy. Seeing as the chest is now slightly wider, the tabs on the legs unfortunately don't quite line up as well, although with that being said, you can still kind of fake it until you make it. Racing through some vehicle mode size comparisons, these are going to look slightly strange. So starting off firstly with again the Studio Series 86 Optimus Prime, Voyager Class Blaster, the original Studio Series release of Perceptor, then finally 86 movie Bumblebee. So, wrapping up on this review for the Transformers More Than Meets the Eye Perceptor 3-pack. In all, if you did miss out on the first version, then this is a fantastic set. Perceptor himself is an incredibly faithful recreation of how he did appear in the original G1 cartoon, and the new chest is an improvement compared to the original. The accessories too are also pretty cool, especially the two cassettes. I think it's really awesome how despite not existing individually at retail, Core Class can still exist as part of this multi-pack. I'm just hoping that they now can also find some way to reissue Rewind in slightly more animation accurate colours. But with that being said, if you do already own the first release of Perceptor and aren't too fussed about RAMHORN or RATBAT, then I do think you can give this one a pass. Whilst overall the new version is more screen accurate, it really is only the chest that is the big difference between the two, and for that sole reason alone, I think your $35 could honestly be better spent elsewhere. But I would love to know what you guys think of this 3-pack. Be sure to sound off below and let me know. As always, I thank you all so much for watching, and until my next next video, I'll see you then. Transform and roll out!